hear you when the water's running. It was during the 70s, and it's three separate situations. I mean, the three acts are not related at all. This is the third act, and it's my favorite. So I don't want to give it away.
It's called I'm Herbert, and I need to say that several times during it. I'm Herbert. So with that, I'm Herbert.
Baltimore Oriole.
Bobolink. Black-billed cuckoo. Grace, a black-billed cuckoo.
My name is Muriel. You're foolish, oh
I
man.
know your name is Muriel. That's what I called you.
No, you called me Grace. Grace was your first wife.
I call you Muriel. You're hard to hear it. You won't admit it. Grace. Grace, that's what I said.
There, you said it.
What?
Grace, you called me Grace.
Silly old woman. You call me Harry, but I call you Grace.
Can't you hear yourself?
What?
I said, can't you hear yourself?
Of course I can hear myself. It's you that can't hear. I say you call me Harry sometimes. Your second husband. Sometimes George, your first.
I never did. You're just saying that because you call me Grace. And once in a while, Mary.
You just don't hear.
What's my name?
Silly question. Muriel. You're Muriel. Grace was my first wife. Mary, very long ago.
Mary was before Grace.
No, she wasn't.
She was.
No, I should know who my first wife was, damn it, woman.
Oh, now that's safe. Just call me woman. It's not very flattering, but it's better than being called the names of your other wives. Now my name's Muriel, and your name's Harry.
Did you hear? You called me Harry. Pot calling the kettle black.
Oh, you always could get me confused, that's all. You always could mix me up. Why, back then, when we were going to Europe...
Now, you and I never went to Europe. That's Harry.
Well, you and I went to Europe.
We did not. Grace and I went to Europe on our honeymoon. That's when I had money. Before women had taken it all.
I've been to Europe with you.
You and Harry went to Europe.
Well, I went to Europe with George, too.
Yes, well, I'm Herbert.
We never been to Europe?
Singly, not together.
Oh, I think we have. You've just forgotten.
I've got a perfectly good memory.
Well, you can't even remember my name. You and I were in Venice together. You're ashamed to admit it and to remember because of the scandalous good times we had. Oh, you loved me then.
I did not love you when you were in Venice having a scandalous good time with whichever one it was, George or Harry. Which was it?
It was you.
I've never been to Venice in my life.
Oh, and yesterday you said you'd never been to Chicago. I proved you wrong on that. Your second daughter by your first wife died there. We went to the funeral.
Grace?
The daughter's name?
No. Grace's girl.
Well, Grace wasn't your first wife. Mary was.
Were you there? I tell you, one was enough. Two was more than plenty. I don't know what got me to try it a third time.
Oh, because you were sick. And you were too tight to hire a nurse, so you married me.
Well, I got well. Should kick you out. Oh, now, don't cry. You know I don't mean it. You were always crying. Cried buckets at our son's wedding. Took on something awful.
We didn't have any children. Don't cry. That was Mary, and I Muriel.
It's no wonder I'm confused, which I'm not. But you all the time saying, Grace, Mary, Muriel.
Oh, I'm just trying to straighten you out.
What difference does it make? I answer when you call me Bernie.
I never called you Bernie. I maybe once or twice called you Harry when I woke up sudden like and I kind of didn't know where I was. But I never knew a Bernie.
Bernie.
I never heard of it.
Well, he'd be pleased to hear that.
Well, who was he?
You were carrying on with him when I met you.
I was married to Harry when you met me.
And carrying on with Bernie. But he cleared out.
That must have been Grace.
You were carrying on with?
No, Grace must have been carrying on with Bernie.
Grace wasn't married before. I was her first.
Not married and carrying on?
She was married to Harry and carrying on with Bernie.
You said she wasn't married before.
You were. You were.
What day of the week is it?
What's that got to do with it?
Well, you can't remember anything anymore. You're a senile old man. Oh, my. Bernie Walters.
That's him. That's him.
Who?
Bernie Walters.
I never heard of him.
You just said his name.
You've been saying it here for an hour. I
You
just repeated it.
You said Bernie Walters.
I said I never heard of him. Besides, I wasn't married to Harry when I met you. It was George. If I'd been married to Harry, I wouldn't have looked at you. It was a fine, strapping man. May he rest in peace. What he did in Venice.
See, it was Harry in Venice.
Of course it was Harry in Venice.
You said it was me.
You? You wouldn't have it in you to do a thing like that.
What? A thing like what? I said.
Now don't be jealous of a dead man. I've done my best to forget him, George, just like I promised when I married you.
I'm Herbert.
Would you keep reminding yourself so you won't forget who you are?
You called me George just now.
Oh, a hearing aid's a cheap thing.
See here, Grace.
I am Muriel.
You talk about me. What about you? Muriel. I'm Muriel.
Cuckoo.
Where? I wouldn't call you Grace. Grace was soft, gentle, and kind.
Well, why'd you leave her then?
I didn't. She died.
No, Mary died, your first wife. You got sick of Grace and you left her, and then you married me.
Left Grace for you?
Yes, you silly old man.
All wrong. Grace was my darling.
She drove you crazy.
My first love.
Mary.
Mary drove me crazy.
No, she was your first love. You've told me about it often enough. The two of you young colts prancing around in the nude.
Mary?
Yes.
I never saw Mary naked. That was her trouble. Cold woman.
That was Grace.
Grace I saw naked. Oh, how naked. There was never anyone more nakeder.
You can only be naked. You can't be more or less naked.
Well, you didn't know Grace.
Mary, I did know Grace.
Naked?
Now keep a civil tongue in your head.
Never saw you naked.
No, and not likely to. What'd be the point? You couldn't do anything about it.
That's what you think.
But you married me at 70. And you were through then, except for dreaming.
You're lying. We had some good goes together. Down by the beach.
You and I were never near a beach. And you were never near me in that way.
Old women forget the joys of the flesh. Why is that?
I don't forget Bernie.
Who?
Bernie Walters.
Never heard of it.
My second husband. I was married to him when Harry come along, but then Harry went away, and then you come along, and it was a long time after. Plutonic marriage. That's what we've had, you and I, George. But it's all right.
Platonic under that willow tree that June.
What willow tree?
Oh, I've been good to you, Mary. For all your carpet and your falling off in your old age, because I remember that willow tree. Muriel never knew about it. We were wicked.
Well, if I thought you knew what you were talking about, I'd get mad. And I know you're just babbling. Babbling, Bernie. That's you. You know, Herbert used to say, I don't know how you can listen to him babble.
I'm Herbert.
Well, if it makes you feel more secure, go on. Keep reminding
Well,
yourself.
you called me Bernie.
Oh, sure. And you've never been to Chicago.
I have so. I went there when my daughter died.
Well, I'm glad you admit
Well,
it.
why shouldn't I admit it? It's so.
Well,
You tried to confuse me. Bernie, Harry, George, Grace, Mary.
oh, you started a long time ago slipping. Only then you were more honest about it. It was very touching. When we went to Florida, I recall you gave me the tickets and you said, now Grace, my mind's slipping. Take care of the tickets.
Your name's Muriel.
Yes, lovely. My name is Muriel.
You refer to yourself as Grace.
Oh, very likely. Very likely.
You said I gave you the tickets to Florida and said, Grace, my mind's slipping.
Well, it was.
I've never been to Florida.
Oh, let's not go into that. The pongee suit.
I never owned a pongee suit.
You said that it was the same suit you wore when you married Helen. And we had a long discussion about how ironic it was that you were wearing that same suit to run away with me.
Who's Helen?
You were married to her, silly.
I was running away to Florida with you, and I was so old my mind was slipping, and I couldn't remember the tickets.
Oh, lovely, you're running a lot of things that happened at different times. You're running them together now. Maybe we should just sit quiet for a while, Harry, and until you get straightened out.
My name's Herbert.
That's right. So we'll just start there. Now you're Herbert, and I'm Grace.
You're Muriel.
Yes.
Muriel.
Yes, that's right. Now just leave it at that, or otherwise you won't sleep tonight.
Well, I always sleep.
Yeah, fortune for sleeping pills.
Never had one in my life.
Oh, and you've never been to Chicago either, I suppose.
Never. Why should I have gone to Chicago?
Only because our daughter died there, and we went to the funeral.
We had no children together.
I think we shouldn't talk anymore now. You're getting confused.
You never let me touch your lily white body.
Oh, and what about the afternoon under the willow tree? Well, I think that's when we conceived Ralph.
Who is Ralph?
Well, Ralph is your stepson, good heavens.
I conceived my stepson under a willow tree?
I'd prefer it if we didn't talk anymore. Just remain quiet for a while. You can't follow a train of thought for more than a moment, and well, it's very tiring jumping back and forth with you. And why don't you just close your eyes and rest? Are your eyes hurting you?
No.
Well, that medicine must be very good then.
What medicine?
You see, that's what I
I
mean.
never had any medicine for my eyes.
Yes, all right. Let's not argue, George.
I'm Harry.
We'll just hold hands here. We'll try to doze a little. Just think of happier days.
Venice.
Yes. Oh, yes. Wasn't that lovely? Oh, you were so gallant, if slightly shocking.
The beach.
The willow tree.
You running